Very good evening and a warm welcome to yet another YouTube live session. Today we have with us someone very special. His name is Dwijattam Mukherjee. He is an associate partner in IBM Cloud Architect. Well, the profile of and the expertise of Mr. Mukherjee is very long. He is an associate partner of IBM and he is a highly skilled technocrat and a quintessential practice builder with experience of more than 22 years in the information technology industry, of which more than 16 years he has been doing into cloud architect with a focus on software as a service and PaaS architecture. So we take a very warm welcome and a great pleasure in inviting Dwijattam Mukherjee, the associate partner of IBM, a very senior person both in terms of knowledge and in terms of respect. So from the entire Asian College of Teachers family, sir, a very warm welcome to this YouTube live show.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So, as we know that today we are actually speaking on a very demanding topic, artificial intelligence and its impact on education. Sir, we all know, I mean to say, we have all read literature, etc. But I would really like to know from your version or from your words, what actually do we call it as an artificial intelligence?
The very basics, the fundamental building block where we come from, and I appreciate that question. There is a lot of ambiguity about what is AI. So it refers to any computer system, that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. It's a branch of computer science, I might say, right, that aims to create machines and software programs that simulate human cognitive processes, like learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception building, and decision making. Uh, so these systems, essentially software systems, are designed to analyze and interpret huge amount of data, right? Identify patterns inside this data, identify relations, right? And make predictions or take actions based on this analysis, right? Um, it can be programmed to process information, learn from experience, and adopt to new inputs when they change, right? There are multiple subfields in this particular domain. I mean, it's a huge domain. Uh, it has been worked on for the last 35 odd years. It's only now that we actually see a practical implication. Uh, Machine learning, NLP, that's natural language processing, computer vision, robotics, expert systems, and there's a neural network, right? Uh, so you'll find these applications in diverse and different fields: healthcare, finance, transportation, in our daily lives, things that we use in our daily lives, like Gmail, right? Auto correction, right? Different bots that we interact in our, things like banking systems and all that. So it's all over the place. Matter of fact, in today's context, it has made significant improvement in the last, I should say, 5 to 7 years, and it's still a evolving field with a lot of ongoing research and development. So yeah,
Right.
it's been there. We are seeing the impact go more and more in our daily lives, and that's about it.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, the thing is that, as you rightly told, that for example, when we are going and there is an auto correction, spelling, or even in some way when we are writing something, immediately hello, then possibly it is taking from the Gmail name and it is providing. So we already know, but still I would like to probe a little bit deep. What actually led to the formation of artificial intelligence? Is it that we or human beings or mathematicians or physicists thought that we can simulate a human brain something similar to human beings, or is it just to improve and smoothen the functionality of a day-to-day work?
So you see, human beings, from our cognitive capability, we are very unique, right? And the most complicated structure uh, in existence is our brain, the whole neural network thing. So the initial research was all about building smarter systems,
Okay.
building systems or tools that could aid us and be smart about aiding us, right?
Okay.
I mean, any system can take up a simple job and do a repetitive task out of it. But being smart about doing that repetitive task, being able to understand our normal language, being able to identify, you know, uh, areas of automation. These are the initial thoughts behind the inception of artificial intelligence. Now,
Right.
as and when the mathematical model grew, artificial intelligence is all about mathematics. I'll be very
Yes.
honest, right? It's a mathematical model. As and when we had more advancement in our mathematical model, we saw that the best way of being productive and the best way of being efficient is somehow to mimic the cognitive processes that a human being possesses. And that is where the whole concept of building the core of artificial intelligence, to start with neural networks, right? A mapping of our own, neural network in our brain, creating a multi-layered artificial neuron network. That is where it all came from. And it has been advancing ever since. Large language models, large data models, very complex pattern data. What is the correlationship between them? So all of these are coming into the picture somehow in order to mimic the human cognitive capabilities. Remember, it's not really aware of its existence, but what we are trying to do is mimic our cognitive capabilities.
Okay. Okay. So just to summarize what Sir told right now is that it is basically not about making a machine, but making the machine more smarter and mimic something which is in our brain with certain kind of complex mathematical algorithm which would lead us to that. So my
Quite.
next question is that as far as I know, very limited learning, especially in deep learning and machine learning, I think there is one my Google's very important tool called TensorFlow, which takes care of the Google Learning, etc. So the thing is that what I have learned, sir, if you show a particular system, say one bunch of tomatoes, then another 10, 100, etc. So it is basically feeding a huge amount of data with all possible combinations and then expecting a result out of that. I mean to say this is something. Now my question to you, sir, is that in case that we face a situation where there is not enough amount of data or the data changes randomly without giving a probability to forecast, will AI work on that?
Right. Limited data sets. This is one of the topic of debate today. I think all of us are aware of Chat GPT and its sudden explosion. Now, these kind of AI systems actually work on a large language model and a huge big amount of data, and primarily public domain data. Now, the example that you took, right, TensorFlow. So that is actually a sub branch of AI technology that we call neural network. It's called a convolutional neural network that helps in computer vision and analysis of pictures and stuff like that. Also called CNN, not the news reader, but
Yeah.
CNN in short. So you see, the basic building block of any AI in today's world is the amount of data. The more data you feed it in, we call it a training model, the better it can recognize patterns, the better it can understand the relationship between the patterns, and better it can actually recommend the output. You know, you give it a huge amount of data, You show it, that has got multiple different, let's say, pictures of black cats. You show it a tabby cat, it will possibly be able to identify it's a tabby cat. But if your data is limited, right, it might not identify it as a cat at all. It might think that it's a kite or something like that. I mean, I have seen this with my own eyes when, there are limitations in the quality of data. So the more quality data you feed in, the better the performance is. The more quality data you feed in, more complex combinations can be taken into account. One of the most easiest example would be the traffic cams. You can take pictures on the fly of our, license plates and determine who was, driving it and at what speed and all that kind of stuff. So that uses a huge amount of data. Now, like you said, there are some ethical questions about using uh, data available in public domain. There are some biasness related questions related to it. So at this point of time, I am aware of the fact that multiple big houses are actually discussing on the impact of using public data vis-a-vis creating a private training data model of their own. So, like I say, it's directly proportional, right? Until unless we find a way of using AI terms, there are things like called data poisoning, data contribution, which actually affects the output. Until unless we find a way of negating those, there is no way of making a system highly efficient with a very small limited amount of data.
Okay. Okay. So the prediction would be limited.
The prediction would be limited. This prediction would be incorrect in certain cases as well.
Incorrect. Okay. Okay. Sir, coming back to AI and its impact on education, I have few things that I am really anxious to ask you. I was exploring Chat GPT few days back, right? It almost gave answers in English. I typed it in Bengali. I typed it in Arabic because I know the language. I typed it in Urdu. It also gave back the answers. Now, the thing is that when I was typing something, what you called quality data, it was able to give the answer. Now, I somehow cheated and typed in a data which is in Bengali, a kind of a conversation between two seasonal fruits, which is found in, for example, in summer. One is mango and is a watermelon. So it is given to my daughter that you need to write an essay on a conversation between watermelon and mango. So I found that 5, 6 signs, 7 lines. After that, in Bengali, it is telling that I am an interpreter. Please don't ask me all those foolish questions, something like that. So the thing is,
I,
it,
I love that example, honestly. Oh, awesome. Way to
yeah,
go.
actually, I told this to my wife and told that please don't tell it to my daughter because she is smart enough to solve all those quadratic equations on Chat GPT. So she told me that why don't you? So I asked who is Sarat Chandra, it replied, who is Shah Jahan in Urdu, it replied. But when I was asking, tell me, it was basically given as a holiday homework, conversation between watermelon and mango, and so it stopped. So the thing is that when you just talked about quality data, is this an example that this is not a quality data which ChatGPT is unable to interpret?
Absolutely. You see, the concept of Chat GPT for that matter, right? Specifically Chat GPT. Uh, it's a different algorithm. It's called generative pre-trained transformer, right? It has been
Generative pre-trained transformer.
generative pre-trained transformer is actually the what GPT is all about,
Okay.
right? It's developed by a company called OpenAI, right?
Okay. Yes. Open
It's
AI.
actually a deep learning architecture. So this transformer is a deep learning architecture, and it can handle sequential data very efficiently. Right? It's generated to. I mean, it's designed to generate human-like text, human-like
Okay.
predicting the next word, in a sequence of words. Now, the problem with GPT for that matter is that if you feed it garbage, it's very difficult for it to uh, understand whether you are feeding it garbage or not.
So it is garbage in, garbage out. Gigo.
GPT is GPT is pulling data from, or rather, referencing data from all over the world. Matter of fact, if I am not wrong, GPT 3.5 was the largest data model ever built that had 175 billion data point references till date. But there is always a question of accuracy and reliability. That will always be there. It
Okay.
might be the biggest data model, but it's a very powerful language, but it's not immune to errors or misunderstanding. And that is exactly the example that you gave, right? So whenever there is an output, you have to think about the accuracy of the input. In our AI context, we call it a prompt, and based on that, you also have to take a call, or rather be in a position to judge the accuracy of the output.
Okay. Okay.
So
Understood.
it's not a know all, you know, without fail kind of model. It is known to provide incorrect information. It is known to provide inaccurate information. So the fact that even in your context, educators context, a
Right.
student goes in and says, type me an essay of 2,500 words for something, it will give you that. It will give you that. But if you take that as its face value and just print it out and give it to your teacher, nobody can say whether it is 100% correct. You have to know
Absolutely.
your context. You have to know what you are actually asking for. And you have to also know at least the basics of what is coming out.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering this. I was remembering the name of Alan Turing. I think in the middle of the 20th century, he was the first, build the foundation of modern computer and artificial intelligence. So the thing is that, to be very honest, what I see is a direct threat to education. I mean to say, I definitely, I would wish an kind of an honest explanation from you. But for example, this chat GPT is falling to my daughter or anybody who has got an essay to write on, or a geography answer or history answer. And unfortunately, my daughter opens the chat GPT. And one thing I also have seen is that every time it generates something new, and there is no question of plagiarism. I copied and pasted it on Google. There is no reference of that particular. And then you ask the question, it will generate awesome results in the second way, which also is plagiarism free. So the first question is that, are we at threat on AI, especially with young people? And secondly, for that, that when we are writing some kind of a, for example, research journal or an website, so we always do plagiarism checking with certain other third party tools. But here we have got a direct result, direct answer. I can just copy and paste. Are we at threat? Are our jobs, or these people who are developing contents, will we be facing a threat in the near future?
Yeah, all right. A very valid question. Very valid question. Matter of fact, it is not only for the education industry, it is actually relevant for, I would say, most of the industries today. Let me give you an example that even I faced in my own life.
Sure, sure,
My
sure.
daughter just crossed her 12th standard, and I remember about 3 months back, she used to run behind me with all of her IIT JEE mathematics and physics questions, and I would take my own sweet time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to figure out what is the best way of doing a sum. And then suddenly, for the last 1 or 2 months, she stopped coming to me. I said, what is happening? Then I figured out that I was actually talking to her about this chat GPT at one point of time, and at that point of time, I think it was chat GPT 3.0. Uh, she managed to actually find a way of asking for solution to her mathematical problems to ChatGPT, and I have
Okay.
seen the outputs. They are
Okay.
fantastic. Let me be very honest about it. And you see, what ChatGPT does is, or this model, the GPT model does it builds on itself. So you'll find if you ask the same question once, it will give a specific type of answer. If you ask it twice, you will find it has already added something to the first answer. So it continuously goes on building. Now, as far as the education line is concerned, right? ChatGPT has got a lot of plus to its side. You know, personalized learning, tutoring and support, language learning, mm, enhanced research and information. But there is a big but. Educators and students have to consider this as an augmented tool to what they are already doing. I've already
Augmented
established
tool.
the fact that yeah, I've already established the fact that you cannot ascertain on 100% accuracy and reliability. That always has to be there. Human interaction, right? ChatGPT under any circumstances cannot replace the value of human interaction and guidance in education. Reading something from a screen in black and white and hearing it from the mouth of an individual with all emotional context is a completely different thing. There has to be a balance that we need to strike. There are ethical considerations as well. You remember, AI is all about mimicking human cognitive functions.
Functions. Right.
It does not have a consciousness of its own. It is not ethical in nature. It does not worry about whether a student has fallen ill in a classroom. It will not take care of any of this. So there has to be a balance. It is all about, think about this. At one point of time, we had horse driven carts, and then we moved into internal combustion area. Now, the drivers of the horse driven carts who picked up how to drive a motor car were well off. But
Right.
if the people, hung back and said, no, I'm not going to learn what is the best way of using this AI that can actually aid my work, there will be a problem. And
Absolutely,
the
sir.
biggest advantage that you have as an educator is what you are doing is not really repetitive in nature. It might look repetitive, but knowledge by itself is never repetitive. And AI is primarily designed to automate repetitive mundane tasks. Education is not that. AI in education should be considered as a tool, not a competitor.
Absolutely. Sir, but I have one question. When I see that, especially in Gmail, etc., I'm talking of very simple things that when we are typing something, it is correcting the spelling, the grammar is being corrected. So does that imply that a student in future won't learn the real spelling or the grammar because the moment they're typing, it is getting corrected by the AI? So don't you think that it reduces the impact of really learning or going through the dictionary and then using those words? uh, I find it as a
This,
threat. My
this,
daughter, to be
this
very honest, right now, to be very honest with you, she doesn't consult a dictionary. She takes the mobile and speaks, and she immediately gets the answer. So I
I
understand that as you are telling that with the horse car driven, now we are driving a car with the horse driven car. So we get adapted to this kind of a, I would say, faster way of doing that thing. But it is also causing an impact that they won't ever learn a spelling or a grammar because the AI is solving everything.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand because uh, the impact of AI in on spelling and grammar correction actually is a topic of debate, even in the overall AI fraternity, right? It can help and all that kind of stuff. but there is a concern that relying on these tools may lead to a decline in human language skills. That is a it's a ethical debate that is actually going on. Excessive reliance on AI tools may reduce the need for individuals to actively learn and improve their language skills. Um, so right now, like I said, it's a debate, and the best way to address this concern is to strike a balance. It's a balance
Balance.
between
Right.
AI tool as aids and in error detection, and but also actively engaging in learning and improving language skill. Now I know from the standpoint of an educator this makes sense, but from the standpoint of a student, it's very difficult for an educator to explain to them, use only this as a tool of reference. Do not build your knowledge repository based on this. Because at the time of the assessment and gradation, this tool will not help you.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yes, this debate has been going on. This debate has been going on for some time, because you see, this grammar correction tool has been there even before the advent of this hyperscaling AI tools for the last 2 years. So yeah, yeah. I mean, there is no straight answer to it. It's all about striking the balance, using it as a tool, and at the end of the day there is always a assessment period for judging the gap or the bridge between an educator and an educatee, right? That you cannot use a tool. You have to be very open about it.
So we have a question from Kanta Keshwani. What are the effective and productive use of AI in learners' life and at what extent?
So like I was saying, personalized learning, right? Personalized learning, providing on-demand assistance, and like you say, opening up the mobile and checking out for something.
Right, right.
On-demand and explanations. A student can ask questions and receive detailed response. So this concept of personalized learning, like a personal tutor embedded in your mobile or your laptop, is something that is very much relevant to AI. Uh, Tutoring and support. Tutoring support is student going through their normal curriculum. Matter of fact, AI, things like even Chat GPT can act as a virtual tutor, right? Language learning, because these models are highly proficient in language learning. Uh, Enhanced research and information gathering for high scale students, right? You don't have to go and sit in a library,
Right, right. So,
wait for
absolutely,
a
absolutely.
wait for
Yes.
a foreign journal to come in, those kind of things. So this impact we already have in our daily lives, whether we like it or not, because there is no way of stopping this until unless countries like Italy absolutely banning something like ChatGPT. Uh, we have to accept it. We have to live with it. But on the other side, we also have to sensitize both the educator and the educatee about the accuracy and reliability of output of AI systems, about how human interaction plays a huge and important role in education, and of course, the ethical considerations should always be there, right?
Absolutely.
Um, there used to be a dark web. Nowadays, from what I understand, people can actually pull data directly from there, and that makes me a bit scared. I have little children as well. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
a balance. We are already seeing this impact. As and when the AI models even grow stronger, you will see further impacts. But there is no way of eradicating the relationship between a educator and an educatee, nor will the need of a human educator be ever replaced. Remember,
Absolutely.
your AI cannot be a Salvador Dali. Your AI cannot be a Wordsworth. Your AI cannot be a Rabindranath Tagore under any circumstances. They can only build a version of something that has been done before, or
before.
some part of that has been some kind of relevance somewhere. Imaginative thought process that we have, something out of the blue,
Right.
not to happen.
Sir, this actually gives us a hope. I mean to say to all the viewers who are listening, words of Mr. Mukherjee is absolutely great. It gives us a hope that we are not under threat. I just wanted to tell you, sir, that means that, for example, let us assume that the young generation won't be willing to learn or go through dictionary. They won't be just like us, go through the alphabets and run. That means what you are saying, sir, that to, if I summarize, that means a level of excellence or a level of, I would say, things are already done. That means for the next generation to come up, they would supersede those levels which is already being done by AI, and now is the task to make things much better. That means we
Abs-
would be facing a fierce competition in terms of improving the quality, because we know certain things is already being done by AI. So an educator also, that means the teaching at the preliminary breast from 0 to 7, these levels are being done. Now how we can improve on the further part. Sir, my last few questions would be, we were discussing just before this program, is that we know that India is also quite new to grab, and as you were telling, to transfer data for quantum computing. But we are seeing that quantum computing is not only for fast data processing, but it is a huge data security. No cyberbullying, nothing will happen, because it is all taken care by the methods of quantum mechanics, where everything is in superposition. There is no way to detect where the data is going. My question to you, sir, is that, is quantum computing is also leading education towards AI, or is it only data processing, data securing? What it is actually about it?
You see, in terms of AI, there were two different thresholds that the computer science community used to talk about. Number one is when an AI can improve on its own self, like you example you gave, right? The first response was different, the second response was better than the first one, the third one was better than the second one. We have crossed more or less crossed this. The second portion is what we call a singularity. A singularity is where uh, artificial intelligence becomes aware of its own existence.
Okay.
That's not going to happen very anytime soon. There will not be a Skynet nor a Terminator coming to terminate us. That's not going to
Okay.
happen.
Okay.
On the other side, quantum computing is a completely different area that has a huge amount of dependency on hardware. And
Okay.
as you know, quantum computing again is a very complicated mathematical model. It's mathematics, physics, and hardware all built together. It's all about being fast. It's all about being secure, like you said, and it's at this point of time a conventional computer system and a quantum computer system. The bridge between these two is still very fuzzy, because you have
Okay.
to understand that a conventional computer system works on ones and zeros, bits, and a
This
quantum
is in
computer
qubit.
works on
Yeah.
qubits.
Qubits.
Qubits
Right.
does not have zero nor has one, but are infinite positions between 0 to 1.
Right.
So, actually, to convert data from one system to another, massage it, process it, bring it back, this will still take a huge amount of time. There is a monumental cost associated with quantum computing still. So it's still some time till we see this becoming mainstream.
Okay.
It might be used as a air gapped, offline, or data staged data massaging platform for certain applications that require a huge amount of processing power, but coming into our mainstream systems, right? Like I have the desktop or the laptop that I have in my
Right.
house, that is a very long time to come until unless we have got huge amount of advancement in both material science, manufacturing technology, and all of that. So at this point
Okay.
of time, I do not see impact uh, any direct impact as such. Of course, in the interest of academic understanding, anybody can go and dig around, but I don't see any direct impact as
Real
such in the
impact.
education system.
Sir, my last question, although we are exceeding the time, is that we are now with Chat GPT, and recently Google has launched Palm 2. So taken all these AI tools together, and we are not talking of quantum computing, etc., because that is only about processing, and not in near future we don't see any impact. So if as an educator, for example, Asian College of Teachers, we have got trainers, we have got students, and as you told that there won't be another Dr. APJ Kalam or Rabindranath Tagore. But given the current AI tools, for example, Palm 2, which I went, but it is still under the processing mode, it is just showing the machine code, it's not ready to type anything and get the data. What would be your suggestion to all the educators, especially the trainers around us, how to use the chat gpt or palm 2, and what would be the effectiveness out of that? If you can just suggest us something which would give an insight.
See, Palm 2.0 is actually a large language model, large learning model, as we call it, LLM. ChatGPT, like I told you before, it's a prompt-based system that analyzes data and provide human-like text output. Uh, all the major uh, technology firms are working on some form or the other of AI based on different. Someone is concentrating more on, let's say, machine learning. Someone is concentrating on neural networks. Someone is concentrating on export systems, and we see these systems coming into the picture more and more in our life. I mean, if you go into any website today that has got a service-based system, you will find there is always a automatic chatbot, which is nothing else but a AI-driven chatbot, right? That can understand your standard English language query and
Good questions. Yeah, yeah. We also have in Asian
similar-
College. Yeah.
similarly, any standard platform like Bard, right? Bard can, actually take inputs similar to ChatGPT and provide outputs. Things like auto correction, auto suggestion, all of these have got AI at the back end. And today you go and check something that you want to buy from Amazon. Tomorrow you open up a Facebook or Twitter, you will find that exactly the same thing is being pushed to you as
Right.
an advertisement in other social platforms. How does this happen? This is all AI in the play, right? All being correlated, a pattern being drawn, conclusions being made, data being pushed out. So, in the field of education, I think, like I said, um, Chat GPT or similar can actually or should be considered as tools and nothing more than that at this point of time. Of
Okay.
course, it can be an augmented learning assistant for most,
Right.
and I think educators can actually use the augmented learning capability and the prompt suggestion capability of platforms like ChatGPT to become more efficient and uh, be better at time management. I know
Absolutely.
for a fact that educators, uh, you know, spend a huge amount of effort in not only imparting education but also grading and assessing their students. So a major part of it can actually be automated through these tools, and that would allow educators to possibly, like you said, couple of I think couple of minutes back, that the base of the pyramid can actually be handled by uh, AI tools, right? Language
And then we
learning,
can
and you
build
can
on other
build on the top of the pyramid.
top of it. Right.
More and more complicated, or I said advanced topics be brought into the field of your standard education,
Right.
because AI will address the bottom and it will
Bottom line.
gradually go up.
Right.
And as it
So
goes up, you have to be ready to bring in more of your human
human
intuition,
touch. Right.
excellence into the whole I
Absolutely.
should say framework.
So last question we have, this is very interesting from somebody called Milan Dotto. He is telling that we are infusing AI in automation. Can we infuse emotional intelligence in AI? I think this is not yet done. I think that would be the final blow when human beings or somebody, you can smell a computer, a beautiful rose. That is Milan Dotto's question. Can we infuse emotional intelligence? Your views, sir.
Okay,
Anything you would like to?
absolutely, absolutely. So uh, the word of importance over here is emotion, not sense. Smell, touch, sight. Matter of fact, for your information, smell has also been conquered.
Oh, really?
Machine, yes.
It has been
Smell,
done. Okay.
yes. Touch, sight. The standard senses have already been encompassed by the computer systems. What the computer system or AI still lacks is to understand I am.
Oh, you
That is its
singularity that you're calling.
own, yes, its own understanding of existence. That is the
Consciousness.
fundamental consciousness, fundamental building block for emotional intelligence. But saying that a system can be trained, again, I'm saying trained to be empathetic to a certain extent on known scenarios. But the intuitiveness of the human brain that can think about possibly a trillion different emotional situations, putting that into perspective before a system becomes conscious is not possible. Not with the current technology that we have at this point of time. Like I said, it can be trained to a certain extent, right? But not beyond that.
So
Not
that
beyond.
answers Milan Datta's question. So, sir, the summary is that as an education and institute, Asian College, and as educators, right now we are not in threat. But what you rightly told that we need to have a kind of a balance, and we cannot outdate AI, but we can move along with AI. But the fear of Skynet will remain when it reaches singularity, that AI itself understands that I am AI, and then it will
Yeah,
start behaving in its own way.
yeah. That is basically, I'm going to quote one of the biggest minds in AI. Uh, he was asked a couple of days back. So, am I going to lose my job? Right? Am I going to lose my job to AI? Then, and his response was very interesting. I go by it. He said, "No, you are not going to lose your job to AI, but you are going to lose your job to someone else who is using AI."
Yeah, very true.
So we have to embrace it. We cannot sweep it behind the carpet, and find ways of being creative about it.
Thank you, sir. I from Asian College of Teachers. We are thankful. This is an insightful discussion. To be very honest, I never knew that touch and smell has been incorporated in AI. I will later connect when you are free, because I'm feeling very anxious to know what this model and what it has worked out. I will later come back to you to know more about it. So, from Asian College of Teachers, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this very required and updated discussion. We are now not in threat with AI, yes, but we are in threat with someone who uses AI. So, Mr. Mukherjee's message is that embrace it, love it, touch it, and go ahead with that, so that somebody cannot tell that you really don't know. So it is like a horse-driven car. A driver now is driving an Ambassador or a Mercedes Benz. So we need to drive that Mercedes Benz. Otherwise, we are under threat. From Asian College of Teachers, thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, for being with us. And I know you have a very busy schedule. All throughout the globe, you have been traveling. Thank you for taking up the time. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful session, and I really honestly enjoyed all the questions.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and
All right.
honor for us. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Yes. Bye bye.
Bye.